Welcome, Dr. James Beckett, Sports Card Insights. Outtake episode from Hobby Hotline from last Saturday was on with John Newman in Orlando from Collector's Dream. Hour plus conversation about many topics. Started out with what's going on at SGC and moved into Fanatics Fest, which was going on. That's mainly what I clipped out. Thanks, sponsors: Topps Panini, Upper Deck, Heritage Auctions, Song of the Scott Auctions, Mike Stadium Sports Cards, Burbank Sports Cards, ComC.com, and Beckett Media, Beckett Grading, Beckett Authentication. Check out Hobby Hotline in its entirety. This is just 15 minutes of what was an hour of fun. Here it is.
I still am an SGC bulk submitter, but on June 11th, they called all the bulk submitters and informed them that the bulk discount rate we get as bulk submitters was going by the wayside. It was coming from above SGC. That's how it was worded. My rep, who felt terrible on the call, I could tell by his tone, basically said, John, you can do it still. That's your prerogative. You just won't get those lower rates. Some of the bulk subbers that I talked to are not going to do it anymore. A lot of my clientele reached out to me and said, listen, depending on your price, we still like to sub through you. So I'm still going to do it. I obviously have to adjust pricing. But BGS, did you have bulk subbers that got cheaper rate?
We basically had quantity pricing. If people aggregated their own or others, they could pass on the savings. When we first got in, I think we were thinking more about collectors than dealers and trying to make it, because PSA had some friction. I don't know that their collectors club was going as strong. And we just said, look, if you want to send in cards, the more you send, the cheaper it'll be. And that went fine because everybody knew there wasn't like a special deal. It was, you send in 1,000, you're going to pay less than if you send in 100, and you're going to pay more if you send in one card.
When you heard this, Jim, what were your initial thoughts?
2 points. One, it's a little bit of a kick in the teeth for your best customers.
Yeah.
People really going out there like you, being their ambassadors. What I would have done is I would have said bulk rates at the cheapest class of service is no more. But higher levels of service, yes, we'll do that. But they may have been getting overwhelmed with the cheaper submissions, which then they're further discounting and then they're getting behind. But at BGS or any of us, bring me all the high value cards you can bring me and all the cards that you want in a faster turnaround that you're paying more for, bring them on. But the bulk rate things that are large quantities of not that great cards, to not give a further discount on that. I understand that. But if I were a bulk submitter like you, John, I'd be frustrated, but you'll find a way. It's their prerogative. If it's T206s, SGC does really well with the pre-war stuff. But that's not a bulk submission kind of a thing as much as it's one here and two there.
Let me tell you that as an ex-marketing guy, I think one of the big advantages for SGC to do that is now they're forcing the collector to sign on directly with SGC to send directly to them. That gives them so much information as direct access to these collectors that they may not have had. So literally they're taking and scooping up all of the different customers from these bulk submitters, putting them in their own database, which is actually PSA's database. So now they can market directly to the collectors versus just the sub guys. So great marketing strategy for them.
That's coming right out of the Fanatics playbook. They want customer information so they can market directly to the customer. Again, that could be a problem for certain card shops or for certain distributors, but that's direct to consumer and customer intimacy. That's a big deal now. But this reminds me of load management and NBA tanking. Players don't tank, organizations tank. So if PSA was tanking SGC, it'd be because they were not putting the best players in the game. We're moving the best graders over to PSA, and then SGC is doing the best they can, but maybe now they're shorthanded.
I read a report GameStop was going to buy PSA from collectors. When I read that, it really struck me as funny because GameStop almost filed for bankruptcy like 3, 4, 5 years ago. And they're going to buy PSA, the number one grading card company in the hobby. What am I missing here? They already have a great relationship now. Maybe they'll get deeper in what they're doing.
They already have a relationship. There's some similarities in what they want to do, but GameStop has two things PSA wants. One is whatever it is, 3,600 stores, which then are submission centers and could be more, real estate. But secondly, the more important thing, GameStop is public. If GameStop technically bought them, and if you dig deep, you see that GameStop has $5 billion in the bank. And that's unusual for a public company because you're supposed to put the money to work. And they've said that money is there for potential acquisitions. Newsflash, PSA Collectors is probably worth $5 billion. Their latest valuation was in the 4-something range. And so for them to get cash in stock out of GameStop, they voila, become public and have a liquidity event for all their investors and owners that may want to get out. Then to me, Nat Turner's the new CEO of the combined entity. When people say no comment or we're not currently thinking about that, that's polite and probably not a lie, but there's transparency and then there's giving full information of something that might be on the horizon. GameStop is a financial mess. If you look back over the last years of the wild ride that it's been on, what it has, another good thing, PSA would really be interested in, they have a very strong emotional connection and following with many of the formerly youth of America, that this is part of their childhood and they're emotionally connected to go down there and trade video games or what they're going to do. So already a strong emotional connection, just like there is with PSA, just like there is with the hobby. So it could happen.
So here we are, and that relationship, I think, is going to grow and get bigger, whether that's like Dr. Jim says, it doesn't have to be an acquisition. They're already aligned with each other. Maybe it's a bad analogy. It's like when someone is going together with someone for 13 years and this, let's get married. Look, already married, like it's just semantics, that kind of thing. So
no, it's like that, but there are benefits to being legally married. That's why there's same-sex marriage in America now, because there are legal benefits to a couple in the way they're doing. And same thing with PSA. Marriage means PSA that they are inside that public company shell of GameStop. Then they get the benefits. They don't get the benefits if they just have a quote-unquote relationship. They have to be part of the public entity. Then they get different kind of tax considerations and liquidity. Guys, there's a possibility.
GameStop has customers who are into all that nostalgia, and those are people that could easily become card collectors. Imagine going in there, renting some games, buying some games, and then they see cards. And oh, I remember that, Griffey. And these are guys that, like Dr. Jim said, are in that era that could easily be converted into card collectors plus gamers. So I think it's a really good mix there of people in GameStop that PSA would want to have.
It might not happen. It's hard to put companies together, but I actually think it's a real possibility.
We've got Fanatics Fest going on as we speak. It started yesterday, goes today, as well as tomorrow. I've seen a decent amount of content come out. You've got athletes and celebrities just walking the floor amongst other collectors. They've changed the layout with this year's incarnation of the show compared to last. The dealers are kind of together in the show instead of almost like in a separate room. Fanatics has said all the right things like, hey, we're not trying to be the national. They have more signers this year than they did last year. They put them in a different spot so as not to disrupt the traffic on the floor.
But remember, the card part is not the biggest thing. It's only 250 tables. That's what I heard about the card areas. It's not that big. You can go to a bigger card show if you want to, but it is what it is. It's a Fanatics Fest. It's all about Fanatics. It's all about their products. It's all about moving their stuff and advertising themselves. They have a lot of talks and things like that. But it's great for a fan, great for kids to take kids there where they can see their stars walking around, Tom Brady walking around. For a fan of the game, I think it's great. For somebody that's interested in buying cards, there's better shows out there. But there's a lot of really cool events they're doing there where you participate with the athletes. They have shoot the puck, throw the basketball, or running and racing and all the stuff that they have that I think kids like more than anything. But it is more expensive than the National.
First of all, the National, I think, had some nonprofit management kind of attorneys develop the legal structure for it. So I think it's owned by technically the board that gets to decide some of these things. The show manager is an employed position. They do not own. Joe Drellick and his Three Musketeers, they don't own it. They're brought in as the outside managers, just like Brogy and Burkest. So I think it's owned or controlled by that. The way it could be sold is it could be dismantled. If it can't be sold, it could at least be closed off, and that'd be an opening for somebody to do something like the National. They can maybe acquire the name National. Okay. So first, I'm going to make an editorial statement. I don't want the Fanatics Fest to be more like the National. I don't want the National to be more like the Fanatics Fest. I want them to each keep their distinctive flavor, and I think that's what's best for the hobby. Having said that, look at this sign here, Fanatics Fest NYC. NYC is even bigger than Fanatics or Fest. I believe the future of the Fanatics Fest is mainly, if not exclusively, in NYC. Just like Comic-Con was exclusively in San Diego for many years. And then it got so gigantic that it went to some other cities. Okay, 3 points on the next line. The world's largest arena for sports and collectible. First, the world's, okay? That's world is better than national, according to Fanatics Fest. So there, it's lofty. The next word in there is arena. Why are we talking about an arena? That suggests wrestling arena or a hockey arena. It suggests playing the game. Then lastly, there's no cards mentioned. They don't say sports,
Well, it says
cards.
It says collectibles.
No,
It says
guys, come on. When you go to the National, it's a card convention. There are collectibles there. You go to Fanatics Fest, it's collectibles, it's sports, cards are not a bit conspicuous by its absence is not cards. We are sports card collectors mainly. I think this is very intentional. These guys are very smart. And I hope they will stay with that distinctive that it would be the world's largest arena for sports and collectibles. And the National Sports Collectors Convention would be the premier show for card collectors, again, all over the world, but it's held in the United States.
You don't see a world where Fanatics acquires the National and then makes it theirs.
I hope not.
They don't
I agree
need to.
completely with
It's
that.
kind of up their lane. They've talked to a bunch of promoters. Can Fanatics run a medium-sized show for profit? I'm not sure, but they can sure run a fabulous, gigantic show in the heart of New York City at a big loss and get unprecedented publicity for our industry.
I know they lost money last year. Do you think that'll happen again?
I think they're hoping to lose more. Look at the publicity they've gotten. In fact, they're even talking about losing money in terms of brand building. Michael Rubin was quoted. He had a big article about how this is not about making money. This is about building something really important and not based on 2.5 by 3.5 pieces of card. It's about the experiences. It's about the apparel. It's about gambling. And it's about buying stuff, which includes cards. Fanatics Fest is a much better entry point for the hobby than the National. And it always will be. There's so many moving parts at the Fanatics Fest. Even at $69, it's getting up there to where it's like going to Disneyland or Disney World. There's all these experiences. Any young person, I think, is going to prefer Fanatics Fest unless they're a hardcore card collector, which probably comes second. They say, gee, I love the cards, but if you really love cards, you're going to want to go to the National because that's the preeminent event for card collectors. If you love sports and you love all these activations, there's probably nothing better than the Fanatics Fest already in its second year. 300 athletes there. This is a coup. This is fabulous. And what 12-year-old kid doesn't want to go with their dad? If the 12-year-old kid goes with their dad to the National, what are they going to visit? Are they going to go look at vintage cards? I don't think so. They're going to look at what the kid wants to look at. If you've ever taken your kid to Disneyland, you don't ride the adult rides. You ride the rides they want to ride. Fanatics Fest, the dad and the kid want to do some of the same stuff. So it's brilliant. They're really doing a lot of things right. The WWE stuff, the 40-yard dash, the athletic competitions. Again, it's not a card show. It's a sports, entertainment, collectibles show, and it'll be the world's largest. And it's in the concept of being in an arena where we're all participating. We're not going into a museum. We're not just looking at stuff on the table. We're active. This is worthy of all the media attention they're getting on Sports Center and all these other places. Hats off to them. They're going to lose millions of dollars, and we're all going to benefit from it. We should say thank you to Michael Rubin.
The man